Hello, everybody, and welcome to Paranormal Nation Radio tonight.
Okay, so the reason why we're laughing is I looked over at Karen. So we are coming to you live from somewhere outside of St. Louis. And I said, it still sounds like stripper music. She's starting laughing.
Oh, man.
So, I guess
Hi, Nigel.
I guess we're gonna go sheetless tonight.
Uh-oh. You are. Uh-oh.
Well, she may have just closed her camera. So
yeah, she did.
But yeah, tonight, we're traveling again. We're still out of town and having a good time. And last night we had an excellent show on the Paranormal Pride with Katrina Cooper, and she did a reading on my mother-in-law, and it was wonderful. And anybody out there who wants to go see it, go check it out on either my Facebook page.
Hello, Tom.
The Facebook page for any of the places that you're seeing this now, you should be able to find it, and on the
Tom
Paranormal Pride YouTube.
Spirits thought it was stripper music too.
Oh, that's good.
Did you find any of the coins? Did you find any of the coins?
Yes.
Yeah.
With the paint on it?
It wasn't paint. Severely discolored.
Discolored.
Oh, okay. Well, good. That's another notch.
Yeah, another one. Yeah, one of them was discolored.
Yeah, she's amazing on what she can do.
Yeah, and like I said, we had a good time, and tonight we're going to have a good time too.
I didn't know he had a coin collection.
It's just
yeah.
So, but yeah, tonight we're going to have another great show. We have coming on tonight with us Michelle Hamilton. She has written more than one book. Okay, but her latest one is Haunted Fredericksburg, and I've been to Fredericksburg many times growing up, and she's also been a tour guide at different locations. So let's bring up Michelle Hamilton and visit with her and find out what in the world have you been doing, lady?
Finishing up this book on Fredericksburg and getting it out and sharing it with people.
Well, we were just over in Alton on Saturday, and we thought about you then as well.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years since I've been to Alton.
Well, you can't go to the Mineral Springs anymore, so. But yeah, we were over there, and I told Ron, I said, it's funny. I said, we have Michelle coming on, and that's where we met you in person. But you've been on the Paranormal Pride a couple times.
Yes, I have been, yeah.
So we've talked before, but this is a different audience, and they don't know you. So can you tell everybody a little about yourself?
Well, I'm Michelle Hamilton. I live in Virginia. I live in a place called Ladysmith, Virginia, which is right between Fredericksburg and Richmond, Virginia. I've been in Virginia since 2014. I was originally born and raised in San Diego, California, where I went to San Diego State University and got my master's in history. And when I was in San Diego for several years, I used to docent and then volunteer docent at the Whaley House, which is known as America's Most Haunted. And currently I am the manager of the Mary Washington House in Fredericksburg. And in fact, the Mary Washington House is actually on the cover. So this is the Mary Washington House.
As I told Ron, I said, yeah, she's the tour guide at the Mary Washington House or Hotel. And I said, I'm pretty sure that was George Washington's sister, right?
George Washington's mother.
Mother.
Okay. Mother.
I knew it was somebody in there,
His sister also lived in town, and so did his brother. But this is Mary Washington was George's mother. So her house, the oldest part of the house, was built in 1759. That was the section that Mary lived in. She lived in the house from 1772 until her death in 1789 for breast cancer.
Oh wow, that's a lot of people didn't know breast cancer existed then.
They did actually on that cancer. They knew that there was a cancer in the breast. They called it a malignancy in the breast. But breast cancer, we have found evidence of even treatment in Greek texts, and even Egyptian mummies have been found with a cancerous tumor on their breast.
Well, that seems like a long time knowing about it. So, right. But yeah, I been to the Martha Washington hotel
Yes.
down there in Abingdon. It was one of my mom's places that she used to go when she was a kid, when she lived in Saltville, Virginia. It was a huge deal, and she went there and she stayed there once just to say that she stayed there. And it's a beautiful place. I mean, the Washington family had some beautiful estates.
They did. And the Martha Washington Inn was just named for Martha. It has no connection to actually Martha Washington herself. And that hotel is also a haunted property too.
Where's that at?
That is Abingdon. But that the Martha Washington.
That's the one in Abingdon. Okay.
That's haunted. It's not connected to Martha Washington. It was just named for her. But it has no connection actually to the Washington family.
Yeah, it's got a really interesting history for the things that it did. But so the Mary Washington house, can you give us a little back history on it besides
the history
fact that there?
As I said, the oldest section of the house dates to 1759. And it's actually this part of the house here. It's a very difficult house to photograph because it actually looks like three houses put together. It kind of is, because over time, they built onto the house. So the oldest section that she lived in was originally a 1.5-story cottage. Two rooms on the downstairs, one half loft upstairs. That's where she lived for the last 17 years of her life, lived through the American Revolution. George Washington visited her fairly frequently, a couple times a year. During the American Revolution, they did not see each other for about 9 years. This property connected to her daughter's property that we now know as Kenmore. It's a plantation. It's also, I mentioned in my book, it's also very haunted, or has haunted legends to it. So Mary lives at the property, has distinguished visitors like Martha Washington. The Marquis de Lafayette visits her in 1781. She passes away in 1789. And the house will go through other owners, remodeled the way we see it today. It was used as a boys' school and a girls' school for several years, run by a Presbyterian minister. It was a Civil War hospital for Union and Confederate soldiers. During the Civil War, 6 Union soldiers were buried in the backyard. They've all been disinterred, and they're now in the National Cemetery. And it's actually been a museum since 1900. So it's been a museum for 124 years.
Oh, wow. What made you want to be are you a docent there or a tour guide?
I'm a docent tour guide. I'm a tour guide, but I'm also the manager, so I deal with the paperwork and the day-to-day running, the schedules and such, and also researching the property, researching for programs. Like right now, I am developing, we're going to do it on November 2nd. We're doing a All Saints Day program at our sister property, which is the Mary Washington Monument Lodge. There's also a family cemetery that is from a family that wasn't connected to the Washington family, but they were later owners of the Kenmore property. It was a sprawling plantation, and so we have the Mary Washington Monument on the property, which is dedicated to Mary, and then next to it is the Gorin Family Cemetery. And so for All Souls Day, which is November 2nd, my organization, the Washington Heritage Museums, we're doing people can come to help remove English ivy from the walls of the cemetery, and then I'll be doing a brief tour and program on Victorian mourning and the Gorin family.
So you guys are removing the English ivy because it causes.
It's just it's the cemetery needs some. We just got the property a year and a half ago. The city of Fredericksburg used to have it, so the property just needs, and the cemetery itself needs some TLC. It's a little overgrown, so we're in the process of restoring the cemetery.
We understand. We worked on a cemetery in Pensacola, and because of the tropical climate, the trees grew up so big, and you wouldn't even have known there was a cemetery back there. You couldn't even tell there was a road going.
And about 2 years ago, we had a micro cloudburst tornado come through the Fredericksburg area, actually made national news, and a tree came down and knocked over partially one of the already fragile headstones, and so it's been knocked out of its casing. And so in time, there's about about 8 headstones in this little cemetery. They all need a little TLC. And so, part of that is to restore and clean up the cemetery.
Yeah, because I know that English ivy can be a problem with mortar.
It just grows, and then we don't want it on the brickwork. We don't want, and the brick wall that goes around that cemetery is from the 19th century, also. So it's also the historic wall that goes around it. So everything is historic, and just it just needs some TLC.
So, are you guys going to do the cleaning of the headstones and use all that lovely cleaner that they have that's supposed to be it's a bio cleaner that's supposed to be really good for the headstones, not tear them up?
Eventually,
you know anything about that?
We are looking into the most safest option, because there's various uses out there, and some have can actually be harmful. So we're trying to look for what the industry and the historical community industry experts who do this for a living suggest is the best, because some of the headstones are 3 of them are flat. So that means that they have a lot of growth on them, just moss and debris, and a lot of them have already they're just old. They're showing signs of tear. Several of them are no longer standing up the way that they were meant to be. They had to be laid down on the ground for their TLC.
Yeah. Tom asks if this is near Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon is about an hour and a half away from us. Mount Vernon is in Fairfax County, Virginia. This is in Fredericksburg. We're right on we are technically crossing into Central Virginia. Once we cross the Rappahannock River, you're no longer in Nova or Northern Virginia.
Good night, Nigel. So I have a friend that knows someone that has been doing the cleanup in the cemeteries in Pensacola. And they told me some of the things that they use that they thought was really good. But I know that in different environments, different solutions are required. So,
and also in our Fredericksburg area, we have a lot of things that are made out of a thing called quiet sandstone, which is a very soft, very porous sandstone. It was used in the White House and the Capitol buildings, and it can wear down very easy, and it's also very porous. So we have to be very careful with the quiet sandstone. And that was the most available. So I'm going to gather that probably half of what's in there. I know some are definitely marble. Some of them look aquia, probably use aquia sandstone, and over time it gets a little fragile.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, they do.
Because I know that, like I said, we cleaned up one cemetery, and I did not bring any cleaner. I just brought a light broom, something very light just to sweep it with, because I don't know. And all I wanted to do was give the grave the respect it deserved, because it hadn't seen anybody at least in, what do you think, 30, 40 years?
Well, that was more of a chainsaw cleanup.
It was,
just to get to them.
Yeah. So when we finally got to the graves, I just wanted to make sure that they were cleaned off enough to where people could read them at that point. But yeah, different materials need different cleaners. So, well, good luck with that. I hope that, I know it'll be very fulfilling to have that cleaned up. People don't even think about how much that means. It means a lot to me as a person, but how much does it mean to the people who have died and the families that can't come back there to take care of it? They may not know about it, but we do, So thank you so much for heading that project. That's huge.
Right.
So, so I know that since you moved, you wanted to most likely write a book about Fredericksburg. And what was one of the places that was haunted that kind of shocked you?
Well, we're in Fredericksburg, and we're in Virginia, so everything is haunted. So that's not really a shocker. I think the one that surprised me the most is the Barnes and Nobles that I talk about in the last chapter. That I just did a book signing there on Saturday, and it is a modern day building. In fact, it was built to be a Borders bookstore when Borders was still around in the early 2000s, and then when they went out, Barnes and Nobles came in, and the section is called Central Park. It's where we're here, right outside of the town heart of Fredericksburg, and is where we have all of our big box stores. And so it's a modern development. It was originally cow pasture land. And so that's a shocker that people wouldn't expect that there are two ghosts, a man and a woman, who hang out in the Barnes and Nobles. And it's the land, because this is all farmland. Virginia primarily is farmland. And so several years ago, they had a paranormal investigation during one of their Halloween events. And the paranormal researcher Pamela Kinney, who also writes on historic places, and she's right now writing a book on the ghosts of the Appalachian Trail, is
I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, and she did a little investigation and found that there's a female that they call the Borders Ghost, and they get the most interaction from her because she'll tell the staff good morning. And then there is a male ghost who said his name was Billy, and he hangs out in the section of the store that is where the kids' bookstore is at. The kids' book section is at.
Is he a kid or a creep?
I don't think he's a creep. He doesn't really interact with anybody. I think just for whatever reason, because Barnes and Nobles frequently will move their sections around. It just so happens that he is in the back section by the bathrooms. Perhaps it's the water out of the pipes. That he is.
Or maybe he's a creep.
He could be a creep, but
one
he
or
has
the other.
He just kind of hangs out in the kids' book section.
Yeah, Pamela Kinney, I have multiple of her books that I've written reviews for.
Right.
So, and I really like her. She is such a nice lady.
She is. And I was next to her during signing, so she was telling me about her latest book on the Appalachian Trail.
It's got some amazing attributes that I've been hearing about. I mean, my family grew up on the Appalachian Trail. That's where my mom was from. So my whole family has stories about. The longest
section goes through Virginia too. The widest section of it goes through, because it goes up through a lot of the states, and Virginia is one of the bigger states, so it has the most in Virginia of the Appalachian Trail. And a lot of people, the history of going back from pre-contact to Native American to Revolutionary War, Civil War, and then also a lot of people go missing on the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, they had one wrong step.
And it could be months of effort that they ever find them. Yeah.
Yeah. And, the Appalachian Trail starts down here in over by where we live in Georgia.
Right.
My doctor was just telling us that that's what they were doing for their vacation, is that they were going hiking on the Appalachian Trail in Georgia. So he said that none of it was messed up by the Helene. Helene didn't do any damage to the areas where they're going. So it's like they'll hike like 25 miles, isn't that what he said?
Yeah.
In like 5 days or something like that. So
and parts of it did get wiped out from Helene, and I heard there's a concern is we never know who was fully on the trail. So we don't know if anybody was on the trail that people may not be reporting them missing, because a lot of people will go up on that are solitary, and a lot of people will do that as an endurance, and so I think the massive tragedy is that we may have had people who lost on that trail right now, and it's just heartbreakingly sad.
That's what he said. That's what one of the things that they were, not him, but the company that he was going with said that's part of the reason why they want to know who they're dropping off, where they're dropping them off, and where they're meeting them up, so that they have check-in points all along the route, for at least with the company that he goes with. Because he goes, I have to park my car somewhere and I need to get back to where I parked it. He goes, and I'm definitely not going to walk there and walk all the way back. So they've got a tour company that they deal with, but the tour company doesn't go with them. They just kind of drop them off and meet them when they need to meet them. So it was really interesting to hear.
Good luck.
Yep. Told them good luck.
Yeah.
For many people, it is their goal of their lifetime to do the Appalachian Trail. It's an endurance test because it's not for the faint of heart. And
hey there.
Yeah, I'd like to do it someday. I mean, I used to go along it when we would go on trips and stuff, because it was just part of the natural area that we were in,
Mhm.
and in Bluefield, we'd just go all over the place. So it just depended. My grandfather was a coal miner, so we went to where there were mines, and so
Mhm.
that's where he lived. But it's an interesting. The Appalachians have an interesting history, just very similar to the Ozarks.
Mhm.
Right.
You got a lot of people that are out there that never ever see somebody from the outside world.
Yeah.
And people think about that today and go, that's not possible. No, it's possible.
It's still very possible.
Mhm.
Oh, I know. People don't like people.
Right. Yeah, and well, there's what they call, from my understanding, is the hollows, where people, their families live all on these little dead end streets, and they live their peaceful lives out on their plat of land, and they are very self sufficient and very, my hat's off to them.
The hills have eyes. No, let's not go there.
Well, it's like the bayous down there in Louisiana. You got a lot of them that's never seen a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you move from or how did you go from California to Virginia? How did that happen?
Well, I moved with my parents. My father had retired, and my mom had a job that can move from coast to coast. And I had family members that were here. My half brother and his wife and children live here. He had been in the Marine Corps, had gone through Quantico, and had met his wife, and loved Virginia and settled down. And I also knew, being a history major, that the time period of early American history, I wouldn't have the job opportunities that I would have here in Virginia and California, because a lot of languages is not my forte. So early American history in California is the Spanish period, and that is a very difficult period of time to read the primary sources, because it's and it's an older version of Castilian Spanish, and that's a very difficult. And also most of the primary sources actually aren't in California; they're in Spain, they're in Mexico. So that period of American history was not my forte, and so I decided to come to. Originally, I studied as an American Civil War era expertise. I wrote on spiritualism, and I came to the Mary Washington House. I figured that would just be a filler-in job until something else opened up, and I really fell in love with the property and the history and the company, and the company, but the organization that I work for. And so I've been there. Coming up this December will be my 10-year anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So does George still visit?
Sometimes, I think. Where the type of ghosts we have at the Mary Washington House, they're not stuck. They're not there all the time. They pass through. I joke that sometimes Mary comes in and checks in to make sure we're running the house the way that she is liking it, and it is a lot of time periods. So I've had people who have the gift who walk in and say the house is very busy. It's multiple time layers, because you go to one room to the other and you're going into two different time periods. So it is a house that is active but not constantly active.
Let's check it out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got like I said, I got family out there. I've got family buried in graveyards all along 81.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to mention years.
Some put there by your own family.
Whole different problem.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
Another show.
But no, I have family.
Well, they had it coming probably. So you know what? Everyone always has that one family jerk.
Well.
Yeah, we all have that uncle or somebody that we kind of have to deal with. But yeah, do you ever go to? So I know, if you're friends with Pam, that you've probably been out to Williamsburg and all those other beautiful places along the coast.
Yes, I do. I have my annual pass holder to Mount Vernon. I have my annual pass holding to Colonial Williamsburg. Yorktown's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, Yorktown and Jamestown I still want to go to. I haven't been to Jamestown ever.
Do not go to Jamestown in the summer, because it is hot. It is muggy. It is built on a swamp. This is the reason why the Jamestown settlement failed. because they built it on a
Oh.
swamp. The indigenous population told them, do
Yeah.
not build it there. It is bad air. They built it there anyways. So go in the spring, go in the fall. Do not go in the summertime to Jamestown. You'll be eaten to death, and it's hot out there because it is.
Sounds like
it-
Florida.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of is like a mini Florida, because Jamestown really doesn't exist anymore as an active city. It's just a historical site, and it's called Jamestown Island because there's a little isthmus that you go on there. So you are out there. You go through the visitor center, and then you got to walk to the actual reproduction, not the reproduction fort, but the actual fort where you're going. You're going to the National Park Service property, and you're walking, and there's not a lot of trees out there, and you got to walk across the swamp to get into Jamestown. And then there's they do have a cafe, but you were walking, and then you got to walk back to your car. So if you're heat sensitive or buggy, do not do Jamestown in the summertime.
Perfect. I need to know that. So,
Yeah.
because more than likely, if we go out there, it would probably be in probably the late spring or early fall anyway.
Yeah. Do not go in June, July. I mean, in July, August. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nah. Yeah.
That would be used to it.
Actually, we've been talking about making a trip to Virginia Beach, and my great niece's birthday is right around mine. And I don't think they're listening right now. So I think I want to try to go out there and surprise her because she keeps telling me I'm her great aunt. And I keep telling her, no, I'm your greatest aunt.
Again, no competition.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
So-
and also, you're interested in Jamestown Island. All of these sites are haunted. They're all insanely haunted. But yeah.
I've been to Williamsburg,
Sean,
Sean.
his wife in Virginia.
Do you know that Hilltown Paranormal team, Sean and Courtney,
Courtney, yeah.
out of Lynchburg, Virginia?
No.
So they're very nice people out of Lynchburg. They're doing a bunch of different venues down there. They're going to go investigate possibly the graveyard in Gretna, Virginia.
Okay.
So, and it's got a personal history to me, but that's one of those things. Will they even pick up on it? Because I haven't told them, what my maiden name is or anything like that. So they may not be able to put two and two together. So it's kind of like trying to get, what do I want to say? Objective information without giving away, giving hints. I don't want to give a hint, so, but we do have a question from Gary. He asks, are there any known haunted areas on the Appalachian Trail?
I'm going to say this is Virginia. I'm going to probably say all of the trail. That's Pamela's expertise, but this is Virginia. Everything's haunted, pretty much. It just is.
Yeah, like I said, I went to Williamsburg. I went to the College of William and Mary for a week, and the scariest thing I saw were bugs. I mean, roaches this big that had been there since William and Mary started.
And they were little powdered wigs.
Yes,
they walked around very, very distinguished.
Disgusting. But we went walking around downtown Williamsburg, and it was amazing to check that out. Because I'd only been to Williamsburg as far as King's Dominion had been.
Right? Yeah.
Which is also haunted, but
yes, Busch Gardens. Yeah.
So when you're riding a ride at King's Dominion, the last thing you're going to do is go, look at that ghost.
So what are they seeing on the trail? Are they seeing like soldiers in uniform or what?
She said that's that's Pam's expertise.
Is it?
Yeah.
So are you going to go check out the trail with Pam sometime?
Oh yeah. In fact, I just went to Luray Caverns the other day, and she was telling me like, oh yeah, there's a ghost there. I'm like, wouldn't surprise me again. It's all haunted.
My mom told me that back in 1978, she went there with the college when she was in college, And of course, we were kids, so she had us already. So she was an adult going to college with children. But yeah, she told us about that. She said that they had gone on a haunted tour back then, and that there was some people hanging from the trees. You know, that they had hung some people from they'd lynched a few people right there by the train station.
Yeah, I mean, lynching is unfortunately was used in certain dark periods of Southern history. That was very common.
Yeah, and some of those people are related to the history in Kansas where we were at. James Brown. James Brown, yeah, John Brown. John Brown. James Brown was a whole different thing.
Yeah,
but yeah, John Brown and some people had killed a bunch of people down the road from us. And then we had the John Brown Cavern over in Osawatomie, and what was it? Meridocene. There was the Meridocene massacre. So, I mean, he went everywhere. I mean, think about this back then.
Killing machine.
Back then, he went from Virginia to Kansas and back, and Nebraska, because there's a cabin up there named for him in Nebraska City. And so you've got this guy that went everywhere fighting for whatever he thought was right.
Right. In fact, this last weekend was the anniversary of the raid on Harper's Ferry.
Oh yeah. So we have hello, Allison.
Smoking his cigar.
Not trying to be rude, but there's a man on the door smoking a cigar behind Ron.
A cigar?
That would be unusual because there's never been anybody here that smoked. So don't know who that would be. So if you know who it is, let us know. But I don't smell anything and I don't see anything. But I'm not denying that may be what you see. So, and Tom McNicholas says, will that be an area where you're going to be buried, Denise? No. Denise is not getting buried. So that's
getting fried.
Gonna get toasted. So
that's what she said.
Yep. So and your book, where can people get your book?
Yes, my book is available on Amazon.com. And also if you're in the Fredericksburg area, we have it at our local, it's also Barnes & Noble's, Books A Million. But yeah, I would say Amazon is the best place to get it.
Are you doing any more book signings anytime soon?
I'm going to be selling my book on October 26th at Belle Grove Plantation in Park Conway. We're doing a Harvest Festival trick-or-treating, so I'll be selling it that day. Beyond that, I'm sure nothing's been set up yet, but there's always going to be stuff in the future, and I will keep that posted on my Facebook authors page, Michelle L. Hamilton, and I'll have all my information on that.
Are you working on another book?
I'm mulling over a couple. I'm thinking about one history and then one paranormal. So I'm trying to figure out which one wants to be written first.
What?
Because the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution is coming up next year, is the big kickoff year. So I'm interested in doing one on Fredericksburg in the American Revolution. We had a lot of really important people connected to the American Revolution coming through Fredericksburg. We had, besides the Washington family, there was Fielding Lewis, who was Mary's son-in-law. He was very prominent. Charles Washington, George's younger brother, was part of very critical and very key in the beginning of the American Revolution. Then we had Hugh Mercer, who was a general who lived in Fredericksburg. He died in the American Revolution, but he lived in Fredericksburg. General Whedon, another prominent character, Marquis de Lafayette, came through. There was also John Paul Jones lived in Fredericksburg before for a couple of years when his brother was in town and he came to settle his brother's estate. So there is a lot of we had a POW camp, Hessian POW camp, Navy on the river, Rappahannock River. So there's a lot of interesting stories to tell. I'm also really interested in writing about, everyone always thinks about haunted presidents. They think of Lincoln. George Washington's ghost has also been very busy too. And I think you're writing about where George Washington's ghost has been seen.
Oh, wait, I remember when I'm going to let Ron take this. Go ahead. I got to answer this. Sorry.
What? Go ahead.
So just where George Washington's ghost has been seen in a lot of other places. So that's something else I would be interested in writing about. Besides, he's been seen in Mount Vernon, a couple of other places connected to George Washington, because there's always the famous story of his ghost appearing before Union troops at Gettysburg. So,
oh yeah, I heard about that.
Thinking that, everyone always thinks about Lincoln's ghost, and Lincoln's ghost is very prominent, but also Washington's ghost is very prominent too. And actually, the stories about Washington haunting, his ghost haunting, actually date back to only a couple of years after his death. So very early in the 1800s, there's reports of his ghost being seen in his former bedroom at Mount Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But yeah, that's his area out there. So yeah, that'd be where he would be at.
Mm-hmm.
Lincoln gets seen a lot in Illinois.
Washington, D.C. There's also the ghost train, the ghost funeral train, connected to Lincoln, that's seen in all of the states that the train actually went through in 1865, from when they brought his remains from Washington, D.C. to Illinois. The Lincoln death train is seen all across the country that it went through.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said a lot of soldiers up there in Gettysburg just before the battle started. A lot of them said they saw the ghost of George Washington.
Yeah,
that's pretty wild.
Yeah, well, what shocked me was how early even members of the Washington family, his nephew who inherited Mount Vernon after Washington's death, was telling guests who were visiting Mount Vernon in the early 1800s that part of the reason why he himself didn't sleep in his late uncle's bedchamber was that he had seen his uncle's ghost too many times. And so he picked another bedroom to be his bedroom, and he would let people spend the night in the bedchamber. And some of them reported seeing Washington's spirit in the bedchamber.
So they ran out in the middle of the night with their hair on fire.
No, they didn't go running out. They just got up with an interesting story to tell in the morning. And then it even goes into as early as the 1890s, where there was women who were involved who saved Mount Vernon, and they're the Mount Vernon Ladies Association. And back in the early 1800s, they were some of the first staff guides, and sometimes they would stay over at Mount Vernon ever they didn't have time to take the ferry that took them from Alexandria from Mount Vernon to DC. And so these two women in the late 1800s say that they slept in the Washington chamber. They slept in the bed that he passed away in, and they woke up in the middle of the night and they saw George Washington in the bedchamber.
Oh, wow. That's got to be, I wonder, well, I guess back then they were a lot more accepting. As you said, you're
and this appears, and they even had an illustration that went with the story, and it appeared in, I believe, the Washington Post or Washington Examiner. It appeared in what we would call a reputable news source, and the women who were in the Mount Vernon's Ladies Association, they're upper crest women. They're from high society because they had the money to have time to devote their passion to saving historic sites. And to be a member, to be a regent of the Mount Vernon Ladies Association, you still have to be a pretty prominent woman, to be even selected to be in that group.
Well, then you lucked out getting this job.
Well, it's the Mount Vernon, Mary Washington House. We're talking about the Mount Vernon's Ladies Association.
I mean, it's still very similar. To be able to do something like this is a very high standard for. You're going to be setting the standard for a lot of these other sites now.
and we try to follow what they're doing. It's like, okay, so if you guys are doing it this way, this is a good idea for us to try to copy or replicate or research and duplicate.
Well, yeah, I mean, you might as well learn from each other, and then what didn't work, but the
historic preservation practices change. Like for a long time, it was absolutely never touch wood, never touch paper with your hands. We now know that our hands have enough natural oil, as long as it's clean, that very gently during cleaning to touch or to move a wooden object, as long as it's it's not too fragile, our natural oils actually help preserve and protect it, because there was museums where the pieces were actually turning brittle and falling apart because we had followed what we thought at the time was the best practices was to not touch it. So it's always the development and adapting to what is being determined through science, through trial and error, as the best way to care for these artifacts.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you think about it, we use like Murphy's wood oil soap on wood to keep it supple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that didn't make sense to the historical people. But
some agents can be harmful to because of
caustic,
corrosive. And so for a long time it just was like, nope, you're not touching it at all. No touching with the bare skin. Now we learn that as long as the hand is clean, a little touching can actually go a long way. Because again, it's the natural oil in our skin. Yeah, it's the oil. It's just the natural oils that our body produces.
I'm glad that happened, because that could save a lot of things out there. And
paper is another thing, depending on how fragile it is, but also just sometimes a little touching of the hand just to move the page, because also you don't want to have too much gloved up, because you can't feel your pressure. Like there's some artifacts when I'm cleaning, I will not put gloves on. Like when I'm cleaning Mary Washington's teapot, and very gently, touching it, because I want to know my pressure, and I want to make sure my pressure isn't too hard or too light.
Makes sense for you. Ron's mom does a lot of that kind of cleaning, so
because you don't want.
I don't clean anything.
Sometimes you got to feel it with your hand to make sure, like, okay, am I pushing down too hard on the object? Am I being too light with it? Let me, feel, I got to feel what I'm doing.
If I could only go to one place in Fredericksburg, where would that be?
That's not fair, because I'm going to say my museum. I mean, I got to be honest. I'm
biased. Okay, let's rule out yours. So say you're a good tour guide, and I came to see you first. Where would you send me next?
Kenmore Plantation. It's the home of Betty and Fielding Lewis, who was George Washington's only surviving sister and her husband. It is a magnificent architectural gem. Just alone, it has some of the most finest interiors in the United States. They hired a indentured servant. All we know of his name was called the Stucco Man, and he made plaster stucco. And some of the stucco work in Mount Vernon is the same person that he did at Kenmore, and he went much more elaborate at Kenmore for his work. And it is also rumored to be haunted. Fielding Lewis lost his fortune and his health bankrolling the American Revolution, supporting the making of guns and armory, and he died of tuberculosis near the end of the American Revolution. So people have sensed his spirit in the house, kind of the residual spirit, because they sense him always very upset and worried about money. They'll see him shuffling through papers like he's looking for something, and upset about finances. And then it was also used as a hospital during the Civil War, and by the Union soldiers, and many of them passed away on the property also.
Yeah, Tom McNicholas asked.
We got a question.
Were the president's spirits that appeared, did they seem to be residual or intelligent?
Yeah. The president.
Well, I was going to ask that too. Good question, Tom.
It is a good question. it seems more from what I'm hearing at Mount Vernon to be residual. The Mount Vernon hauntings are the most closest associated with George's death, which is in December, early December. He dies in early December of 1799, and the staff at Mount Vernon have seen things that seems to be residual in nature, and some of the other hauntings on the property seem to be residual. My favorite out of Mount Vernon I've heard is a couple times a month or a couple times a season, a sensor will go off in the stables at Mount Vernon, and so the security will know to go towards the stables, and they know they're not going to find anything, but they always check. And when they're done clearing the stables, they know to start heading towards the mansion house where George and Martha Washington lived, because within a couple of minutes, about 15 minutes or so, they will get a call to go into the main house that a sensor has been breached in in George Washington's study. And they know historically that George would go riding, he would, get into the stable, start caring for the horse, hand it over to his enslaved worker, and then he would walk to the his study, where he would change. And it's almost exactly like the timing it would take from a person to get off a horse, start to bed a horse down, and then walk from the stables to the main house.
Do you do a Christmas program at
we
the
do
Martha Washington?
The Mary Washington House, yes. We will at the first Sunday in December. We always have our open house. It's free. It is from 12 to 4, and you get to see the house in a it's our idea of a colonial Christmas, because again, in the colonial era, they didn't really decorate the way that we decorate today, or even that they did in the 19th century. But starting with Colonial Williamsburg, because Colonial Williamsburg did this, and they're still famous to this day for the beautiful Christmas decorations, but they admit it's our idea of what a Christmas would look like, and they had the materials that we had today. So we do lightly decorate the house in a modified colonial style. And you're able to visit the house, get a little bit of the history, visit our gift shop, and also try some of Mary Washington's gingerbread. She was famous for serving gingerbread, so we serve gingerbread, and that is the first Sunday in December every year. We call it our colonial open house.
That sounds like fun.
So no animatronics, huh?
No.
Krampus isn't there.
So if you got a chance to meet and talk to, say, for an hour, anyone in history, who would it be?
I'm really fascinated by Mary Washington. There's a lot about her life we don't know. We only have 6 surviving letters from her lifetime. We don't even really know what she looked like. So first off, to get an understanding of first things I would ask her is, we don't even know what her birth date was, what day she was born. We think we're starting to reassess what year she was born in. We for a long time said 1708. I'm now reassessing. I think she was older by 2 years, and that she was actually born in 1706. So things like, when were you born? Really, when's your birth date? What was George like as a child? What was your thoughts? She was widowed at around the age of 37. Why didn't you remarry? What was it like raising George as a single mother? What shenanigans did he get into? What was some of the shenanigans your other kids got into? What was it like being at the Mary Washington House during the American Revolution? What was your life like? That kind of thing.
I'd ask, did George really cut down that cherry tree, and did he really admit to it?
or more likely, did he actually kill one of your favorite horses by accident? That's the story. That's also the cherry tree kind of replaced the story, because there's also in Parson Weems' book, there is a story that George accidentally tried to ride one of Mary's horses that was unrideable, and in the process killed the horse by accident. Did he really kill your favorite
he's lucky he didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
So, we know that she has a dog on the property when she moves to the house. What was your dog's name? What was your favorite horse? Why did you name your horse Shoelace? Because what she called? She named one of her horses Shoelace. Why did you name him Shoelace?
Yeah.
Maybe she figured it wasn't going to be worth anything and it was going to be shoelaces.
No, that was actually those of all of her. Yeah, she loved horses, and of the horses, and when she's moving over to the Mary Washington house, we know she moved with 3 horses. We actually have the names of 2 of them. They're actually listed in a census of animals, and they're the only animals on the kind of the census of the Ferry Farm property that she moved from. There's 2 horses on there that they're the only animal names off that list, and one was named Ridgeling, and the other was named Shoelace.
Oh,
so it's like,
that is an unusual name.
Yeah, why did you call him a Shoelace?
Shoelace. So they obviously don't know where even Mary's buried, right?
Correct. She is not under the monument. She's up somewhere, we think, by the Meditation Rock area, somewhere on the property. We've had ground penetrating radar done. The last I've heard, they're still analyzing it. It's still coming back up inconclusive. So I call her Fredericksburg's hide and seek champion. She's currently undefeated still.
Okay, talking about that.
Now, but the other thing is, like, honey, where are you buried at?
Yeah.
So Bigfoot. Do you guys have any Bigfoot sightings? I know on the Appalachian Trail there is. But how about in Fredericksburg?
I do actually have a chapter at the end. I have UFO sightings. I have a Bigfoot sighting.
Oh, really?
There's one Bigfoot sighting that I could find in the area. It wasn't per se because also some of my book includes parts of Stafford, right across the Rappahannock River from us, kind of considered today to be part of the Fredericksburg area. And there are an occasional Bigfoot sighting near Quantico military base, Marine Corps base, and so
I'm not surprised. That's where they usually are.
That was submitted to BFRO. That's the only I could only and the UFO data clearinghouse. Those are the only sites that I could access free that could see, and so there's only one in the area for Bigfoot that's been reported to BFRO, and it was a man. His teenage daughter were driving home. They were in a rural area near to the Quantico base, and a Bigfoot-like creature stepped across the road and walked across the road, and they're able to see it in their headlights and cross the road and go into the woods. And
Makes me wonder if that's the Aberdeen Wildman.
And they said it was coming from the Quantico side into the Stafford side.
Because, there's a lot of sightings by Aberdeen Proving Grounds as well.
Mm-hmm.
Up in Maryland.
And there's supposed to be a couple of Bigfoot that live actually on Quantico that have been seen by Marines, and also we have a couple of other military installations here in Fredericksburg that supposedly Bigfoot-like creatures have been seen. A lot of UFO sightings of unidentified flying objects have been seen in the Fredericksburg area, and particularly because we're near to Quantico. A lot of people who reported their sightings, they had experience with military craft, and these are craft that they were familiar with. And I have one reporting of a person who may have seen a humanoid figure actually in their backyard, that they saw lights that came down, saw humanoid-like people or something that was in the backyard. And here in this area, we don't have really like postage stamp backyards. A lot of people will have like sprawling, acreage, but saw a creature on their property when they're trying to take their dog out to go do the business.
Not surprising. Like I said, I know that there's sightings over Aberdeen all the time. Ever since I can remember, people have said that they've seen stuff there and out over by Martin Marietta in Essex. mean, growing up there, of course, I've heard all this, New Jersey, same thing, lots and lots of stuff out there. Have you ever witnessed anything like a UFO or a possible Bigfoot yourself?
No, I haven't, and I like to see one, but not be abducted by one, or I like to see a Bigfoot, but not be chased by Bigfoot. But no, I have not had that chance.
Yeah,
I was on a trip, and my friend saw. She thought she saw a UFO over the water at Ocean City, Maryland, when she was just like sky watching. But my mom and I were sound asleep. I'm like, why didn't you wake me up? I want to see a UFO.
Yeah, there's recently in the last week, there's been like 6 or 7 different people who have been posting pictures out over Pensacola of what they're saying are UAPs and UFOs. But the thing is we got the Naval Air Station right there, and then we have the Eglin Air Force Base that where all the hurricane planes fly out of. And we got Keesler not too far away either. But yeah, people have been posting triangular shaped UFOs out there, and we already found out that one of the
it's rumored that a lot of the stuff at Wright-Patterson in Ohio, they moved down to Eglin. Eglin is huge.
It is.
It's just surrounded by woods.
Yeah.
You can't even get near it.
Yeah. You can hear.
The DC area, there's been drone sightings lately over installations.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Well, I'm pretty sure I know who those are. Gigi Pings.
Yeah.
Made in China.
Whoever in there was made of, and I know there was. Yeah. I know we got the comet going over right now, also on this part of the Western Hemisphere. Somebody online dressed up in their inflatable dinosaur costumes and went out to go watch the comet. It's like, is it too soon to make that joke?
Yeah, somebody shared a picture of the comet in our neighborhood. We live only 30 miles from the ocean. So, in the northern part of Florida. So they're seeing it very far south.
Yeah, my boss went and saw it out on she went out to they call Flower Pin Farm, which I also talk about in my book as being haunted, but it's a National Park Service and is an integral part of the Fredericksburg area, so it didn't have a lot of light pollution, and her husband were able to they were experienced enough, they were able to pinpoint and see it through binoculars that the comet came through. And then a couple of weeks ago we also had the Northern Lights. I forgot that they were showing up that night. And then I was able to catch some of it just through using my cell phone camera. We had the Northern Lights in our area too.
We had them down as far as we live too. I didn't get any pictures, but people shared them in our neighborhood going, look. And one of them got this really interesting, I'm going to go with lens flare, but it looked like a beam of light coming down into their yard. And it was amazing to see the picture. I'll have to show it to you. But
in our neighborhood?
In our neighborhood.
Huh.
Yeah, Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping that she got abducted, but that's a whole different problem.
Little smoking a little too much.
Yeah, we're not going to go there. And but yeah, I wanted to ask you a question about some of the other locations in Virginia, because I know that since you've been living there for almost 14 years, right?
10 years.
10 years. I was somehow, some way, I went to
Baltimore math.
Yeah, we failed. We failed in the school system. No, it's called not listening very well. There's a bunch of Civil War battle sites, all across the state.
Oh, yeah.
And one of Ron's favorite things is Civil War history. And he wants to go to a site that one side of the war called Salyers Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Southwest Virginia.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't care where it is. I just want to know, is that someplace that somebody should go? Because my uncle went there. And this was before it was a National Park Service. And he would go out there and he would find relics. And he would, sell them. That's how he made his first amount of money to start buying his own business. And like I said, this was before the state park said you can't do this.
Right, exactly.
So
Yeah.
I don't suggest anybody go out there and try to do that now.
No,
This
unless
was
you
back
like to
in
have
the-
a $5,000 fine and a year in prison, courtesy of Uncle
Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah, because you can't take, people don't know this, but you cannot take a rock out of the petrified forest or the painted
Yeah,
desert.
and they will prosecute you on that one.
Yep.
And I've turned people in for relic hunting that they've caught. They were bragging about online. It's like I've turned them in. It's like, don't be stupid.
I would. I'd like to go there, not to do that. Just like to go.
And
visit.
there you can. There are parts of these areas that you can legally relic hunt as long as you have the permission of the property owner, because there are a lot of these sites that are still in private hands. But when you're in a state park or a national park, that is absolutely prohibited.
Yeah, I was wanting to ghost hunt with my when I get my new FLIR camera. That's what I want to use.
It's one
out
of the
there.
places that he really wants to go. Have you heard anything about that area at all?
I mean, they're all have experienced paranormal activity. I know, especially since 2020, do respect the curfew hours of these sites.
Yeah,
they are, especially like in places like Gettysburg. They will trespass you and arrest you for trespassing. But also a lot of things is people don't realize you can do a lot of things privately in the daytime. A lot of these parks, there are so many of them here in Virginia that there are so many little nooks and crannies you can go into that is quiet, that doesn't have any humans around, that you can go and do a brief investigation, like places like Cold Harbor is. There's other battlefields that are very under visited, especially in times of year where it's not busy. That you can just, very quietly, very, very discreetly, very respectfully pull out your camera or your recorder and do a brief EVP session or a brief paranormal investigation, as long as you're being respectful to the property, respectful to the other visitors, respectful to the rangers. Don't do it after hours. Don't do if they tell you the park closes at 5 o'clock, be gone by 5 o'clock.
Oh, believe me, we're not the kind to break the law.
Yeah,
we're kind of the ones that make
it's not as busy as Gettysburg.
Since 2020, these sites have been cracking down much more on after hours visitation.
So, will you be going to Gettysburg in 2025 for the Battlefield Bash?
I hope to go back to Gettysburg. Period. I haven't been this year, and I miss it.
You miss it? Oh, we haven't been since 2017.
Wow, yeah.
So we plan on trying to go this year in 2025.
Trying to get it in July.
So
yeah,
it's a big, I think it'll be fun to visit with so many people at one time.
Right.
For 2 to 3 days and just have fun. And but I told him I just got to go to Friendly's and I'll be happy. Maybe have some scrapple somewhere for breakfast and I'll be done.
Yeah.
But
go to the Lincoln Diner. That is it's like a mid-century diner. It's by the train station that Lincoln came through. It's really good down home cooking, and there's been stories that people have seen you soldiers in the bathroom.
Where's it at? In Gettysburg?
The Lincoln Diner.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Now that you said that,
I don't remember that.
So, needless to say, you just said they see spirits in the bathroom. There was a place that I saw a spirit in the bathroom in Pensacola, and it was one of the French soldiers that was living in Pensacola in 1580.
Mm-hmm.
And when I described the guy, they go, him. I'm like, oh, yeah, I think so. It's like, I'm in the bathroom. I'm taking care of my business. I'm not really looking at their face. I just want to get done. Don't want this guy watching me, but we always have some interesting stories, and you always have so many stories to share. And the show's coming to an end. And where would everybody find you, Michelle?
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter at History Whiz 1, and also on Facebook, Michelle L. Hamilton, author. And I'm also on a couple of, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and so I am a guest occasionally on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, which is usually on Tuesday nights. And then also coming back on Sundays, I am on a show called The Sin Sphere, and we talk about Doctor Who.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Wow.
I mean, you got like what, 35 years worth of information to share on Doctor Who?
Oh yeah, I'm a big classic era fan, so that's my time period.
I just know that it's been around forever and ever. And
60 years, 60 years, yeah.
My cousin is real big on that. And she, you know what? She didn't come to the show tonight. Usually
No,
she's
she
here.
didn't.
Crystal loves everything
Yeah,
Doctor Who. So I'll have to let her know about the shows so that she can check them out. So
yeah, the one from the Legends of Traveling TARDIS were American based and Canadian based, and the Sin Sphere is primarily England with me as the token Yank.
Well, she's traveled the world, so she won't care either way.
Right.
Very good.
So I hope everybody will join us here next week. I forget who I don't know who the guest is right now. I know I have one. I don't remember. Oh, yes, please. Tell us about your book
on Amazon.com.
Check that out. And if you can't find it there, go look at Barnes & Noble and Books A Million online, and you can get them there as well.
Yep,
so
exactly.
Join us every Tuesday night right here on wherever you're watching us now for Paranormal Nation Radio Not So Normal. We will have a special guest on Tuesdays as we find them, whoever we can dig out from under a rock. Okay. Nothing but special people for sure.
That's right.
And then join us next Monday for Paranormal. Boy, that's bad.
Right.
Join us next Monday for the Paranormal Pride on Mondays, every Monday at 7 p.m. And my guest on Monday is one of my friend's favorite people, Rick McCullum. He's going to come on and we're going to talk to him about whatever the Hollywood ghost hunters are doing, or what is he doing in Scotland this time. So join us then on any of the places that you're watching us now is where you'll find us. We're also part of Things Network. And let's see, we're part of Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment Network. And Carl, you can finish it up.
Yeah, and you can also find us on Rumble on Born TV. So always check us out on all these Facebooks. So we want to thank everybody in the chat room for joining us. We want to thank Michelle for joining us tonight. So everybody have a good time, and we will see you next week here on Paranormal Nation Radio.
See you, Susan and Mike.
On Saturday.
See you soon.
See you Saturday.
See everybody Saturday.